The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. We've heard this saying time and time again. I heard it growing up. I hear it all the time now. In this video, I'm going to break down why and hopefully give you some solutions to the problem. Remember, this is according to my own research. Please do your own work. I do have a free newsletter, so please sign up to that if you want to get a bit more insight into what we're talking about here on this channel. So, ownership, in my opinion, is where this all starts. You've heard people probably like Gary Stevenson talking about, the billionaires own the assets, they get passive income, blah, 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 blah. The K-shaped economy is, I think, the best frame of this. You've got the rich getting richer through ownership, the poor getting poorer through, not ownership. Essentially, assets work for you whilst, you're sleeping. We had a massive rise in assets during the pandemic, whilst wages stayed stagnant, and that K sums it up. It's not very good, but it sums it up perfectly. And assets tend to go up in value over time, whereas the salary stops. The moment you stop working, the moment you leave a job, and so on. Inflation makes ownership, even more expensive over time. So for you to get that first asset, let's say a house, let's say a percentage of your wage is a lot more difficult now than it was 20 years ago. And ownership's not, just about wealth. It's about what side of the K you're on. It's not a moral argument. It's not a right or wrong. It just is how, it's just how the world is. All right. So the system rewards ownership. That is the bottom line. So this is not, changing. The only question is, are you positioned for it? Are you positioned to actually be in a position where you are moving towards the top of that K? So yeah, that's really what you want to be asking yourself, really. So you want to be thinking about, okay, cool, how can I get onto that upper part of the K? In my opinion, you want to know scalable skills instead of capped income. So most professions have a ceiling. Unfortunately, a doctor, a teacher, a civil servant, all valuable, but they're all capped. So does it mean, that you can't be, more scalable? Let's say a doctor, you can maybe run your own practice or whatever it is, depending on your situation. It's difficult to actually really kind of, scale those skills because they are capped at a salary. So a scalable skill has no ceiling. Think of sales, a commission-based income. You are technically in charge of your own earnings. Yes, it's extremely difficult to actually, get the really high levels of commission month in, month out, but you do have that, kind of mindset of, okay, cool, if I put more effort in, I'm going to get more out of it. So commission-based jobs are a really good example of a more scalable skill. So sales, for example, or you could even do marketing. You could do maybe a marketing campaign and you get a profit share back. Investing can be scalable. The more capital you have, the more money you can grow, all these type of things, and the same as I've put there, the same process applies for 10K and 100K. It's the same skill. The wealthy develop skills that compound, so, and look, if you're a teacher and you're watching this and thinking, okay, cool, how do I scale? How do I do more? I don't want to work more hours, then investing probably is going to be the path for you. And yes, you're not going to make loads of money investing by, making 40 grand a year compared to the guy who's not investing making, 200 grand a year. You're not going to close that gap massively, but you've got to analyze your own situation and you've got to play the card you're dealt with and do something about it. And investing for most people is that thing. If you're not got a scalable skill, if you're a younger person, probably ask yourself, okay, cool, what's a scalable skill I can learn, like sales, for example. Commission-based job, I think, is really good because technically commission in most situations, most companies is uncapped. But most people, they need to develop skills that compound, not develop skills that plateau and have essentially a ceiling on them. The rich think in years, most people think in days. So, this stock is hot right now, is not an investment thesis. It's a reaction. You want to be thinking, if you are going to go down the investment path, long term. Bill Ackman, really good example. He thinks about durable companies and high quality businesses with predictable cash flow that are going to last years, that are going to, discount all this short-term volatility. And he's thinking about where is a company heading in a decade. And that's the mindset you've got to have when it comes to these things. Short-term volatility is essentially noise. And it's the same in your day-to-day life. Something happens in the news, something happens at work. Ultimately, we forgot about it in 6 months' time. Even in a week's time, there's a new thing. So you've got to have long-term thinking in the skills you're learning, in the investment stuff you're doing. You've just got to be thinking long-term. The long-term thinking is ultimately what's going to win. If you're chopping and changing every skill or every investment idea, you're going to really struggle. You've got to have a plan and stick to it over years. If you're a teacher, think, okay, cool, how can I become a district principal, if that's a thing, or a head teacher? Okay, cool, that's going to take me a decade, or it's going to take me 5 years to get to head of department, and then it's going to take me another 2 years to this. Think in that way, and it makes the picture a lot more clearer than if you're, thinking, oh my God, I'm poor, it's really bad, and all that stuff. Just think, okay, cool, where am I going on my career? Where am I going on this investment stuff? Most retail investors never give a thesis a time to play out. It's the same with a system. If you've got a 200-day moving average reclaimed, it's right, I'm going to buy when the 200-day moving average is reclaimed. I'm going to put some stop loss below. This is trading related. If you're going to do that and then 6 months time that doesn't happen, because that can't happen, especially if we're staying above it or below, whatever it may be. You might have moved on to 10 other systems in that time. You've basically got to let a thesis play out, and it's the same in your career. If you're a teacher, okay, cool. How can I let the thesis of my career play out? How can I get to, head teacher, head of the school, whatever it may be? You've got to let that time, play out, and you've got to think in years and not days. The gap widens automatically every year, and this is the, bit of truth. Compounding works in both directions. An asset portfolio compounded at 10% per year doubles roughly, every 7 years. A savings account, earning below inflation shrinks in real terms. So if you're not compounding, your money aggressively, I would say probably in the double digits year on year, you're going to be really struggling, because they say inflation's, 2 to 3%. Is it? I don't know. I think price of things has definitely gone up further. So that, look, you've got to be thinking, okay, cool, how can I, really, in my best situation, in my best ability, really kind of shrink that gap in terms of what I'm doing. So the longer you wait, the harder it tends to get. So, with compound interest, you can see there we've got the 10% gap. Of course, but someone who starts building ownership at 25 versus 35, they have that extra 10 years on them essentially, and that 10 years of compounding started later will never fully recover that 10 years at 25. And the wealthier reinvest, the people spend. So a good example is, I guess you could say, Amazon. Lockdown, what happened? Everyone spent their money on Amazon because everyone was locked in their house, and the Amazon share prices went bang. Jeff Bezos, evil Jeff Bezos, as people would say, had the ownership, so he was able to create his wealth. You could argue that was maybe one of the reasons. But the wealthy are always looking to reinvest their money. They're not looking to buy that new pair of shoes, buy that new car. They're thinking, okay, cool, how can I buy something for then my investments to actually buy that car? And a car might be an extreme example. It might be, I don't know, let's say, for example, you want a new dress for a wedding, for example. I don't know, something as small as that. Same principles apply, right? So the system is not rigged, but it is tilted. It tilts further away from you every year. So the more, when you understand this, you don't act actually upon it, it's really damaging you, because the compounding effect works both ways, as I mentioned. So look, the verdict, you need ownership. That's it. We're in a K-shaped economy. The ones who are really wealthy have ownership. Elon Musk, trillionaire. Why? Because he's got stocks and stock options and whatever, and he's got ownership in a lot of companies that are worth a lot of money. Asset owners compound. Non-owners, they lose purchasing power year on year. You need to be thinking of ownership. You need to also be thinking of scalable skills. Remove the ceiling on your own income. Cap professions, they will keep you fixed. Unfortunately, we need people, to do, jobs, in society and all that stuff. But you've just got to be thinking to yourself, okay, cool. I'm in a cap skill set. Investing is the only way, probably, if I want to carry on doing my profession and not do a direct change, that I'm going to, learn a scalable skill for most people. Or you could even do something on the side. But if it's, I don't want to sell to someone, I don't want to deal with people, that's the thing, investing is probably the option for you to have a capped or an uncapped thing, in your locker. All right. So that's something you definitely want to be considering. Long-term thinking is the edge. Most people, give it away for free. Reacting to headlines, chasing hot stocks, changing careers. If you're changing career every 2 years, it's the same. You're not really going to reap the rewards as somebody who's stayed in the same game for 10 years. All right. So think in years, let a thesis, let an idea, let a career play out, and you're going to do better than most people who keep flip-flopping year on year. I think it's, one for graduates. They'll graduate, do something for 3 months, realise it's hard, realise they don't enjoy it. Really, if they stuck it out, a year, 2 years, they actually might have really enjoyed it. Yes, you know, there is an argument to make, you know, if something presents that's better, go with that. Or if you don't enjoy it, like you really don't enjoy it, do something else. But most people, I think, just quit for the sake of quitting. So you need to think of, okay, cool, can I have ownership? And also skills are also ownership, right? I don't know why I was doing that like a belt, but skills are ownership. So you want to thinking, okay, I need ownership, I need scalable skills. For most people, investing probably is the best option. Long-term thinking is the way forward. If you combine all those three things, it's going to be really difficult to really not reap the rewards. So yeah, look, if you want to find out more about this, I have a free newsletter. If you want to really kind of grasp more about the investing stuff and how I approach it, please sign up below. Links that will be in the description. I'll see you in the next one.